Mr. Lee.
Hello everyone, Marius here. In today's video I will be playing Cyberpunk 2077 in VR with the VR mod made by Luke Ross. I will also try optimizing the game with two mods that I have not shown on the channel yet. And this is actually my favorite mods for optimizing Cyberpunk 2077. So yeah, let's dive straight into it, guys. Let's do this. Okay folks, here we go. So, to get access to the VR mod for Cyberpunk 2077, you will have to support Luke Ross on Patreon. It costs like $10 US or something, 90 Norwegian kroners. And if you do, then you'll get access to his VR mod for Cyberpunk 2077, Red Dead Redemption 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, Elden Ring, and Mafia 1, 2 and 3, the definitive editions. So you'll get access to VR mods for all of those games. Once you have access to his Patreon page, you want to scroll down and find his latest release. So at this moment, that is release 411, right? It might be different when you're watching this video, but the same thing applies. You just find the latest one, right? Once you've done that, you want to get the latest version down here. You see, there it is, a zip file. That's what you want. You click on it and it downloads to your computer. All right, so that's the VR mod downloaded. Once you have this downloaded, open it up in whichever zip software you're using. I'm just using normal zip or whatever it is. From here you need access to your game files for Cyberpunk 2077. You find this by going to Steam, if you bought the game on Steam, which I did. You click this little cog wheel here, right? And you go to this third option and browse your local files. Sorry, this is in Norwegian, so you probably can't understand it, but it's really simple. Once this is done, you're here, okay? To install Cyberpunk 2077, you need to head into the bin folder, okay? And here, x64. Here you have Cyberpunk 2077 EXE. This is where you want to install your VR mod. To install the VR mod, we open up our zip file that we just downloaded, grab everything inside of it and just drag it over. So I'm going to be asked if I want to replace it because I've already done this. So I'm going to click yes, because I'm going to demonstrate to you how the whole process works. So I replace everything. I double click real config bat. This will tell me that Windows is protected and blah blah blah. You just click view more and run either way. Okay, and click yes. And now, since I've already configured the game, it wants to know if I want to keep my graphics settings or if I want to delete them. I'm going to demonstrate everything from scratch to you, so I'm actually going to delete everything. And it says all done. So to you it won't say anything, it would just run and then the mod is installed. Okay? So that is installing the VR mod for Cyberpunk 2077. We want two more mods though. One of them is called Config Overhaul. This lets you uncheck a lot of unnecessary features in Cyberpunk to boost your performance. And this does a really good job, folks. On my old 5700 XT, I was able to play the game at 1920 by 1920 with 72 frames per second always, pretty much, by using this mod. And that was not possible before. And I was using no upscaling method. So now with my RTX 3070 Ti, I'm able to hit 90 frames per second all the time, with rare occasions of frame drops, really rare, and with a resolution of 2430 by 2430. I do have to use DLSS as well to be able to do this, but it looks mwah, and it runs beautifully. So this is what I want to show you guys. Like, this is what it's all about for me in this video. So what you do, you download it. I choose manual download, because this thing is really simple. It's just, it gives you this 7-zip file or .rar or whatever. I use 7-zip, then I just can open the archive, and here you have Config Overhaul. I actually already have this thing installed. I'm going to show you how that works though in the installation process. So we'll head into our Cyberpunk folder. This is where you get directed once you've gone into Steam and chosen to browse your local files. Then you get to this Cyberpunk folder. This is like the top folder. That's where you want to place this Config Overhaul exe. So it's really simple. Like you see here it is. You just open the zip file, what you downloaded, right? Like I did with 7-zip, and I just dragged it over. I'm not going to do it now because I already have it. Once that is done, you double click it. Voila! Here, what I would recommend you do is you click the optimized option. This gets rid of a whole bunch of unnecessary things, but you're not done yet. What you want to do is you want to now enable all render async compute, because you do not want to disable these when you're playing VR. Then you get a choppy experience, and that's not what you want. This disables it because it frees up a couple of frames, but that's fine if you're playing on a flat screen, but not in VR. So these you want to check all of them. Okay? Another thing, I checked the rendering frosted glass, which eats 2 to 4 frames per second. I don't want that. So watch out, okay? This thing here, it says what it does, right? So all of these, like bloom, that thing eats 3 to 5 frames per second. I keep it on because I like the bloom effect in Cyberpunk, but be aware of it. You can just as well disable it, right? Maybe I should, just for the sake of demonstrating this. Usually I play with bloom on, but now I'm gonna disable it just for demonstration, right? Distant global illumination as well, 2 to 5 frames per second. And it says what you should not disable, like distant shadows. This breaks the game. Lens flare, that doesn't eat any FPS, so you can just keep it on. Anti-aliasing, previously I've disabled it because I thought that made a huge impact on the performance of the game. Actually though, I've seen that wasn't it when I got this mod. It's actually all of the screen space reflections that are totally eating up all of the FPS. So those you can get rid of. Volumetric clouds and volumetric fog, you don't see it as much as you would think. Like, the game is really cloudy and foggy, and you would expect those volumetric effects to have a huge impact on your VR experience, but I really don't notice it when I've disabled them. So you can totally disable them. However, let's see, weather and rain map needs to be enabled, but either way, if you keep them on, there's this weird thing that happens where when it rains in the game now, there aren't any clouds. So that is kind of immersion breaking. So I'm gonna try now and see if I can fix it. But I'm kind of thinking it's some way tied to the screen space reflections or something. I don't know, because if I turn on volumetric clouds, that does not fix it. But I'm gonna try either way, right? So the nice thing about this is you have a ton of options. And I'm gonna combine this with another mod which further optimizes the game. An important thing though, before you run the game, you need to close this config overhaul, because if not, it doesn't apply the changes. So it only applies the changes you've made once you've closed it. So watch out for that, right? Because if you keep it up and you're thinking like, oh, this didn't change anything, that's because you didn't close it. All right. If you want to uninstall the mod, you go ahead, double click on Config Overhaul Cyberpunk EXE. Here you want to click this button, reset. Alright, there, exit out. And now delete. The mod is gone. So next mod here, that is heavily customized optimization. So this does a little bit in the background. You don't necessarily notice this all that much when you're gaming, but he has some performance charts showing off the fact that this does actually have an effect. Maybe you don't notice it all the time, but it works in the background. So really nice little mod here to just get the perfect performance boost. So he actually recommends combining this with what we've already done, which is go into this config overhaul. It says down here, yeah, config overhaul is the one he has combined it with. He also gives some recommendations for different things you can do in your Nvidia control panel, which can help, but we're playing it in VR, so I'm actually not going to do all that stuff right now, because I think it runs totally fine. Yeah, but you could, of course, go read the description here and you'll get even further tips on how to do it. So, heavily customized optimization. This we download. It asked me if I had the config overhaul, which we do, right? We just downloaded that. So here we have that. This is a .rar file. And we can open this the same way using WinZip. Or no, excuse me, 7-zip, that's what I use. Open archive, here it is. So it has this README attached to it. Here there's a bunch of information about the same things we just saw, pretty much. Some tweaks that we can do in the Nvidia control panel, if you want to. I'm not gonna do it though. So this general optimization .ini file we want to put into our engine PC folder. Let me show you. Okay, so here we are at the top of our directory, right? When we have clicked the cogwheel and browsed our local files, we always come to the top where we placed our config overhaul mod. Now we're heading into engine, this little folder right here. All right, double click. Now we're heading into the config folder. Okay, and now we're heading into platform. All right, PC. Okay, here we want to place this new mod. So we have it open here. We'll just drag it over. That is one step in the process. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that the general optimization mod, because we've used this before and this is a customized version, this breaks the game unless you delete 2 lines of code. So we have to open this up. I open it in WordPad to see the code inside. And here we're looking for rendering async compute. Let's see here. Rendering async compute, here's clear. So we have to get rid of rendering async compute, here's clear. These 2 lines of code right here, you have to delete them. Once you've done that, you save, right? That's it. Then the mod works just fine, nothing crashes. So here we go, folks. Now I'm going to show you Cyberpunk 2077 running on my rig with a frame rate of 90 frames per second. Let's go. Okay, folks. So let's go ahead and start our game. All right. Here we are. There we go. So at the moment, this is acting kind of weird. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to head into our graphics settings and change this to a resolution we want, and we want to use 2430 by 2430. Okay, and we want to go into okay. There we go. Let's see here. DLSS we want to turn on. I actually have it on 65%, and that's it. All right, let's try. See if this works. And that does work, yes. So something really weird happened here. Watch out though, because these mods may interfere with Luke Ross's mod, and you do not want it everything on high. You need to turn it on low, down on low. So texture quality can be on high, and everything else, all of this stuff, film grain, chromatic aberration, all of these things here you can turn off. Motion blur off, all of this other stuff low or off. Okay, that is important. Mirror quality, you could of course change this, but yeah. So I think we should be ready to do a benchmark. Before we move along, you need to head into your mod menu. If you have an Xbox controller, you can access this by pressing down both of your triggers while in a menu. So we do that, and here we go. Here is the mod menu. What we want to do now is actually head into advanced and change our buffering from double to single, because I have experienced that you get a better latency. You get less latency with single buffering than you do with double. Another thing you want to do is you want to head here to adapt resolution. Click that. All right. From here on, everything is up to your personal preference. I have found that the HUD looks really weird, so I have to actually change that to 0.7. I'm not sure why. It probably has something to do with my other mods interfering or something. I'm not sure. It's not a big deal though. Another thing, this is just personal preference, but I have tweaked the first person offset so that I'm a little bit farther back. I have tweaked the aiming camera a little bit so that pistols appear a little bit closer to the character and rifles even a little bit closer than that. This is personal preference, of course. I have free aiming on so that I'm able to see like move further towards my gun to see it even better. I also turn on GPU throttling because this is by default on -1, which means it is disabled. You want to enable your GPU throttling. I think this is it. You can choose to show your FPS, and then you get a small counter up in the corner. We're gonna try to do that this time around actually and see how that works. You can also choose to show your latency. So we see now I have 60 milliseconds latency, 60 to 70. We're gonna go ahead and try to do the benchmark. So I'm recording with my Quest 2 at the moment, and this is so that the recording doesn't affect my performance too much. And as you see, this is blisteringly smooth. I'm keeping 90 frames per second in the nightclub, and this is the most demanding place in the whole benchmark because there's so much lighting going on, right? And I'm keeping 90. Outside though, there's a little dip in performance, and I don't know why. It doesn't really make sense. I think it has to do with DLSS though. That DLSS has to adjust itself in some way, and all of a sudden the frame rate dives. Around here I think it is. I think it should happen. Yeah, here we go. Here it dives a little bit, you see that? Down to 70 frames per second, and it should go up again back to 90. So that doesn't actually have anything to do with my rig, it just always happens for some weird reason around there. It did not happen when I used an AMD GPU though. That was kind of weird. It only started happening when I changed to Nvidia. But I get a smooth frame rate while outside in this game. It's not like I get a bad frame rate anywhere. Hopefully this does just fine. Okay. So first off, like, this game looks beautiful. DLSS looks incredible. It's so insane because I'm used to playing with my AMD card. Yeah, I'm not always keeping 90. I do dive down to 80 frames per second in some places, but mostly it's like 90 FPS all over. And it feels blisteringly smooth. Like, the numbers aren't all that important. Numbers are just numbers. I mean, in the headset, this feels extremely smooth, guys. And sure, it jumps around a little bit. Here is that Delamain stuff. Man, I hate those side missions because they're so invasive, and it's like you have to do the side missions, or they'll just keep on bothering you forever. I didn't feel like doing all the Delamain quests this time around. I think they're cool quests, but when you've played through the game more than once, you kind of get a little bit tired of doing the Delamain quests, you know? So keep in mind, I am recording, and this does impact my performance. I've actually found that I get a smoother performance when playing with Oculus than with virtual desktop.
Keep in mind though, this is not a perfect solution for frame rate. Here we go, here we're at 90 frames per second. Yeah. This is not a perfect fix. But if we head in here to our map, I want to show you this. Here's the biggest problem for me. The map gets kind of messed up when you use these mods. That is pretty annoying. And if you see here, when I change to another view, another perspective, everything is totally normal. So it's only the map that really acts up and acts weird. Other than that, like, my performance is mostly really good. It does occasionally slow down a little bit. That's always the case, like with Cyberpunk. But mostly I'm keeping 90 frames per second here. But most importantly, this looks breathtaking. Like, seriously, man, this game looks so beautiful in VR. It's insane.
There you have it, folks. Cyberpunk 2077 in VR with a wonderful VR mod made by Luke Ross, as well as a couple of mods for optimizing the game. My overall impressions of the VR mod, as I've talked about previously on the channel, is that it's the best way to play Cyberpunk. Hands down. I've put over 140 hours into the game now, and most of that time has been in VR. When it comes to the optimization mods though, they do the job. Like, I keep a steady 90 FPS on my gaming rig, which is a 3070 Ti. My system specs are down in the description, but it does cause some issues though. For one thing, it breaks the weather system in the game, so that when it's raining you have like a blue sky, so that is kind of immersion breaking. Haven't quite figured out how to fix that. It can be a little bit tricky setting it up, since you have to go and delete some code and stuff like that with the heavy customized optimization mod, or what it was called. And it did break my map in the game. I'm still able to use the map totally fine, but it gets like zoomed in and I see it from a super weird perspective. So that is, however, the only thing it actually breaks, and it doesn't affect the game in any other way, so I still prefer playing with these mods, but be warned. Otherwise, this is a beautiful, awesome experience. I highly recommend it, folks. If you liked today's video, click the thumbs up button. Please leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. Yeah, I'll catch you on the next one, folks. See ya.